All right, we are now recording because we are now starting. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late, but I got excited with all the hellos. So let me get my act together here. And as people keep coming in, I'll let them in. I want to say, everyone, welcome. Welcome to our series on classes for the curious musician. This is our number 6. I can't believe it. This feels like it was just an idea yesterday. And I'm so glad you're here. I think most of you have been to one of our classes, but I'm going to go through my spiel anyway. I'm going to tell you that the reason we decided to do these is because we noticed that all of our wonderful adult musicians were coming in the shop and they just seemed to have lost their energy. All their rehearsals and concerts were scheduled and everybody was just bummed out about it. So we thought, let's create something we can learn, have fun. If you haven't been on these before, they're super casual, super easy. And I'm really, really glad you're here. Little housekeeping. I am recording the session. So when it's said and done, I will put it up on the Huthmaker Violins YouTube channel. It usually takes me a day or so to get it up there. And then I'll post it on Facebook so you can share it with everybody. If your friends missed it, tell them not to worry about it. And I tell people all the time, I'm a lovely person. I'm highly intelligent and evolved, but I'm not very good at technology. So if we have bleeps and blurps, forgive me. I'll do the best that I can. I don't think we're doing screen sharing tonight, so that's a good thing. So I'm going to keep you muted. If you have questions, some of you have already emailed me your questions, but if you have questions, throw them in the chat box. I'm going to be monitoring the chat box, and I'm going to be throwing the questions to John as they come in. So just, and if you're not familiar with Huthmaker Violins, I want to encourage you, visit our website, come see us if you're in Atlanta. We love music and musicians more than anything in the world. If this class doesn't show you that, then come to our shop and we'll try some more. So, also, this is a new thing for all you people who have been to all the other ones. I need some input. I am looking to get a group of you guys. I don't care if it's 3 people or 30 people to help me. We're starting to actually plan our second 8-week series for after the holidays. So if you're interested in giving me your opinion, shoot me your email. You can put it in the chat box or you can send it to me at ahuthmaker@yahoo. I'm Anna Huthmaker. Oh, it says Dixie. I'm not Dixie. I'm the daughter Anna. The one that says Buddy is actually both my parents. So, or you can send it to the Huthmaker Violins website. I just need people that will happily share their opinions, how we can make it better, if they know great guests and what they want to learn. I will not sell your email to any political people, I promise you. Okay, so I've told all of you guys that my favorite thing about this is I've gotten to hire all my favorite people in the world. So I want you to do me a favor, and I want you to imagine that the year is 1991, and I have been a cellist my entire life, and I decide to become a bass player. And I decided to go to graduate school, and I literally picked up my bass for the first time, maybe 4 months before I went to grad school. And I went to Arizona, and I got an apartment 2 blocks from the School of Music. So that's a long way, and a bass is big. And so I went to Target and I bought me one of those push golf carts. And I taped pillows onto it and I strapped my bass on it. And every day I would go to the School of Music with my little push cart. And one day my good friend John, he pulled me aside and he went, Anna, if you can't carry it, maybe you've got no business playing it. And I was like, woo! And it was, I got rid of the bass carrier. I gave it to a more naive student, if that's possible. And it was one of 1,000 lessons that my friend John has taught me ever since we met at Brevard Music Center in 1989. I'm so happy he's here today. And his name is John Ebinger. He plays with the Phoenix Symphony. And I swear to God, now I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to him, but I'll interrupt him with all my questions as we go. So John, thank you for being here. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I have a lot to say. I'm pretty scattered. If I get off track or on a tangent, just raise your hand. Yeah, Anna, you come to the rescue.
I'll come to the rescue.
And I'm sure I'll go tangential a few ways. Anyway, I'm really flattered to be here. Thank you for asking me to do this. I'm really happy to be here and to share, these little bits of experience that I have with whoever. And first, let me say my hat's off to Hutmakers, the Hutmaker Violins store. I wish it was closer to me so I could go there once in a while. But this is a great deal, and a special thanks to Anna, one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. It's just, there's one of a kind, that's one of a kind.
I paid him to say that.
Anyway, like I said, this is very flattering. And let me continue with that little story Anna just brought on. Those were pretty magic days. They were fun back at ASU. And yeah, I had forgotten about that story till Anna kind of briefed me on it before we started tonight. And I told her, well, the guys in the section, I've been in the Phoenix space, the Phoenix Symphony for 25 years now. And until last year, I was the new guy in the section. That kind of tells you about the turnover. Anyway, I told Anna, after she told me that story, I told her, well, there's more to that. All these guys that I'm in the section with in Phoenix, they all have a little wheel they stick in their end pin and push their basses around and kind of wheel it around here and there. Whenever I come across any of them with their wheel, I tell them a real man carries his bass.
That's right.
So if I don't know who is there any bass players here besides Anna? Just okay. Vern. Okay, good. So do you carry your bass? Okay, good. Yeah, a real man. I'm pretty scattered and unorganized. Okay, so really, if there's something that's confusing, please stop me and get me going on the right direction.
Okay, can I just jump in and say, let me tell you guys that when I promoted this, I didn't talk to John. I just threw a title on it. I said, we're going to talk about practice and all this kind of stuff. And when he and I had a phone meeting the other night, he started coming out with all this cool stuff about movement and body mechanics. And I was like, ooh, can we do that? Let's start with that. I still have all the practice stuff. I have all the questions, but this is one of the first things John ever taught me as a musician. And so if it's okay with you guys, we're going to actually start with that. Does that work for you, John?
Yeah.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of heading. I do want to maybe split this up in kind of a couple sections. One about motion, movement, and efficiency of movement. And, talk quite a bit about that. And I got plenty of ideas. And then we'll kind of morph into practice and how to practice and why and how much, all that stuff, that plagues us all. Because that's a real skill in itself, for sure. And I never took a class on how to practice. It's kind of a 60-year class, I guess, and I'm still in it. But practice is tough, and there's a lot of much more efficient ways to go about it and less efficient ways. So we'll talk about that. First off, so who plays what? Let me go around the room and tell me what your instruments are.
And you guys can unmute yourself as you want.
Well, John, I play cello.
Dana's a cellist. Vern, you're a bass player. Candy, what do you play?
I played the viola.
Okay.
Yeah, Dan is a viola.
I'm sorry, Dan, you're a violist?
Yeah.
Okay. And Marcia?
I play violin.
Okay. Have you guys been around for some of these classes?
Yes.
Yeah, this is great. I haven't caught them all, but a few of them. And it's just a great, fantastic thing that Anna and the Hutmakers are doing here, and just a real gift to what we all love and enjoy. That's the first thing I kind of want to say is we're all of us right here are incredibly lucky. Oh, I missed someone. Linda, what do you play?
What do I do?
She plays cello.
Okay. Well, good. That's good. the viola and the violin is pretty foreign to me. The lower strings a little more comfortable. Anyway, getting back to where I was, this is an incredible gift we have. We're all so lucky to be in this community. You know, we love this thing we do, this passion we have, and it's just it's such a gift. You know, not all that many people have it or understand it or can really feel it. You know, and that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later too. But you know, with activists like Anna and the Huffmakers, you know, keeping this rolling in this weird coronavirus time, you know, this is a great deal, and this is a really super way to keep us all invigorated and interested and curious. You know, it's named properly. Curiosity is something that's very, very important. Hey, is this light okay? Is it?
It's a little wonky, I won't lie to you. It's like putting you under the light of heaven shining down. It's a little.
Is this better? Okay.
Yeah.
Let me go through just a few little ideas I have about motion and moving, and then we'll kind of get to some little exercises and go from there. We're all constructed with muscles and tendons and bones and these articulating joints and all these things, but using them is almost the less efficient way to be. Now, let me really, you know, I'm probably not making sense yet, but let me give an example. I'm a sort of a pilot myself, and I fly light aircraft that are weight shift. You know, no controls, no rudder or ailerons or any of that stuff. It's all weight shift. So I'm talking about a hang glider. So I'm hanging from one point, and if I push over to one side, it shifts my weight, and so that's where I go. So that's how I control that. I liken that a lot to playing the bass. You know, all my students come in, the first time I ever see a student, it's all about muscle and playing, making this thing go. And it's just, it's the wrong approach, if you ask me. What I like to think about, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it takes so much muscle to play the bass, to hold those big strings down and bow that thing, you know, but it doesn't. We all have a certain amount of weight. You know, I'm guessing we're all 100 pounds plus here. And we can really use that to our advantage. We can shift our weight, and that will almost entirely take the place of our muscles. I think, was it last week? There was Amanda with the yoga. That was great. That was great. Did anybody else, were all you guys in here for that?
I don't know if any of these were or not.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's an awareness. Awareness is a real important part of going through everyday life, I think. And you know, it's no exception when we get onto an instrument. Kind of need some more real. Tell me if this light gets bad again. Think about, you know, when we used to go to the bank before the virus set in. Think about those big doors at the bank, you know, and you know, naturally we go up to that door, we grab hold and lean back. And that's what I'm talking about. That's weight shift. You know, you wouldn't go to that door and open it like this. It's just not going to work. It's not efficient, and you're going to use your muscles when you don't need to. It just doesn't work. So that's what it's all about with the bass. You know, I'll give several little analogies here, but I want to be natural with the bass. I don't want to have to muscle it. I don't want to have to force it. I just want things to move. The bass you know, and I'm talking about the bass, but I'm sure this can apply absolutely to the cello and really to any physical activity. But I want this to be part of me. I don't want to make my body, you know, approach this instrument. I want this instrument to become part of me, and that means just staying natural with it and shifting weight rather than muscle. And I'm going to stress that a lot. Let's see, I got a bow around here somewhere. Another kind of analogy, and I'm giving you these analogies just to show you how this weight shift kind of really applies to our everyday life. When we're picture yourself walking down a road. Okay, we're walking down the road. Now, you're not going to have tight shoulders or anything. Everything is just going to kind of swing naturally because, you know, we're a big bag of water. We're all a big bag of water. And that's important to remember. That makes it easy to apply this weight shift if we think about it that way. So we're walking down the road. Everything's loose. That's the same kind of thing I want to have playing the bass. My shoulders are swinging, my arms kind of swinging behind my shoulders. Same thing here. Let me back up a little bit. Sorry, just let me know if the light is bothersome. So, can't really see that, can you? You see my bow now? Okay. This is very little effort this way. Very little. All, you know, really all I'm doing is this. Just swinging my body back and forth. We'll go more in a minute. If we get this motion smooth and all we're doing is shifting our weight, simple, easy, and efficient. So let's see. I had another thought and it escapes me there.
Can I interrupt you for a second? So one of our participants had asked me, she emailed me, and I think this is a great place to ask you this. She's a violist and wants to do exactly what you're talking about, wants to move side to side and use her natural body motion to get good sound. But she says she feels like she looks really fake when she does it, like she's trying to make herself move. Do you have any advice for that?
And I'll kind of join this with some exercises. I don't know if anybody here knows Tai Chi. I sure don't, but I do know some principles of it, and I use this in my teaching and my playing a lot. And this is my philosophy, you know, and it may or may not go against Tai Chi principles, but this is how I look at things. The center of my body, right here, right, kind of right above my hips, you know, just right here. Everything comes from here. And if you're an athlete, you know this very well. If you know about moving your body. If I'm playing tennis, I'm not a tennis player, but I know that I need to generate my stroke from here. If I'm a golfer, same thing, you know, it has to come from here. If I do it with my shoulders and arms and everything else, it's just not going to work. Now, I'm guessing is this violist here?
No, she couldn't be here this evening. That's why she emailed me her question.
So, okay. Everything comes from the center. That's the very basis of things. Let me explain concepts I have. I like to feel like the base of my spine is really kind of the source of the center. And picture like a bungee cord just attached the base of the spine, going straight up to the back of my head, straight up to the ceiling. Now I like to, when I do that, then I can feel the structure, the vertical structure. I can kind of loosen my knees, and I can feel like I'm bouncing from the base of my spine. That bungee cord supports me right straight up. when we move from the center and in a relaxed way, things are efficient. And I'm almost willing to bet that she is tight up here.
Mhm.
When you eliminate this, the bigger mass of our water balloon, then we're eliminating all the good stuff. That's why we need to move from here. And it brings me to the relaxation. To me, just about all tension starts right here. Okay, if you're grabbing your bow or tight on your left hand or something, that's not the place to look. Look back here, go back to here. Shoulders always need to be down, always loose and down, never any tension in the shoulders. Once this happens, everything's gone. You know, the efficiency, the weight transfer, it's just not going to be efficient. So shoulders down, we can reach up. I can reach up to the top of my scroll and my shoulders still down. That's important. Don't want to do this. To show the arms drop underneath the shoulders. And I'll give you a little story. This kind of dawned on me in one moment. I had just played a concert. I think probably Anna was there. We played a concert out in Sun City. And it was a little regional orchestra we played with in school. And I was driving home. It's a kind of a long drive. And I was driving home that night. And I was in my truck, and I'm thinking, I was hanging on my steering wheel, and I'm thinking, oh man, this hurts. This hurts bad. I just played a really tight concert. That was not good. Then all of a sudden it dawned on me, oh, relax. And I dropped my shoulders. In that moment, I knew what I just told you. And it's critically important to really, really let things hang. And that's just so important. Now, if you guys are game, I got a few little exercises. You want to stand up and loosen up a little bit? We all have our comfortable spots, our comfortable way of moving. That might be sitting in a chair or a couch, you know, with a remote control, you know, something like that. I don't know. But what's important is for us to kind of push the envelope a little bit. We want to get to where it's a little uncomfortable. And that's where we start to grow and expand our knowledge and our experience. So first off, I want to approach the instrument in a loose way, really important. So I want to stretch out really good first. Let's go straight out with our arms. Just keep your knees loose. We can kind of bounce around on our knees a little bit. Keep and always think about the shoulders. Stand down and loose. Everything hangs from the shoulders. So reach out as far as you can. Yeah, stretch it a little bit. This is where we're probably, most of us are getting into a little discomfort, you know, when we're reaching way out. So now at that point, reach out another ½ inch on each side. A little more. Feel it really stretching. That's good. And this is how we expand our core of experience, and by just pushing everything a little bit more. So that's what we're doing here, is get that all loose, twist your arms around, you know, let the extremes kind of kick in all the way. You feel all the twist over here and then back over here. And just really find those extremes. And always be keeping your shoulders down. Now, let's go straight up. My arms are a little too long to get into my ceiling, but let's go straight up. Same kind of idea. Good, straight up. Now stretch it a little bit further. Another ½ inch. You can really feel that, huh? Okay, and now it's hard to reach straight up without really kind of raising the shoulders a little bit, but still the emphasis on really relaxing those shoulders is important. Okay, so let's do this too. Let's stretch way back. This is important for string players, especially. We are, when we're playing, especially with a bass and cellists and probably violas, probably all string instruments, we are kind of crouched around this way. We're all kind of hunched over the instrument. So what we're doing, if you do this for decades and decades, you end up like this. You form your body this way. So we need to compensate for that and keep everything open and working like it should. So this exercise is really good. You can think of this part of your chest kind of leading the way. And you can feel how opposite that is from this, what we're used to. So these things, if you can, get in a routine where you can really keep yourself loose and open these ways, it will help. It will help a lot. A routine is hard. It's hard for us humans to get into it, but if we do, and if we get into these healthy habits, we can really move forward, and it will help us a lot in the days to come. Okay, so let's take this a step further. Going back to thinking about the center, lower this camera again. Thinking about here, everything comes from here, shoulders down, arms loose, everything's nice and loose. Knees are a little bit bouncy, so we can feel that imaginary bungee cord that's kind of supporting us. Okay, now, I know Anna knows this one a lot, and maybe some of you other people do too. What I want to do, I want to kind of get the twist going from my center. Now, when I introduce this to a student, almost always it's like they want to move their shoulders. Let's do this, and that's just not it. We want to move from here, just a little bit. Stand loose, and you can see the arms just kind of dangle, flip around. Now, what we all have a tendency to do is to lead with our shoulders. And I don't want you to do that. I want you to just let your shoulders reciprocate. Let them be natural. Let them just go where they're going to go. But think about moving from the center. And, this doesn't only apply to music or playing an instrument, but anything you do that's physical. Use these ideas. See what kind of feedback you can get for yourself. It's this is important stuff for us, and I think a lot of people don't quite get that all the way. Anyway, I think that's maybe one reason why there's so many physical problems out there in society. Anyway, from the center, let's get a little rhythm going. Just a little bit, just very little. That's it. Just let your arms hang. And I'm going to ask you about your hands in a minute. But we can get this little rhythm going and just think loose, 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 loose. Now, with very little movement, I can, I'm not moving much. I'm moving my center, but I'm getting my arms going with very little movement. Okay, now, if I worked on this for a little bit, I could get my arms just swinging, just straight out, swinging, just with a little bit of center motion. Let's see, how about some feedback from anybody? Is anybody feeling this? Have anything to say about it? Yes, no?
I will say I think it's so important, especially with those of us with big instruments, we have to wrap our entire bodies around, but important for the violins and viola to feel that heaviness, especially in the right arm. I was texting to Anna a few minutes ago. This is exactly what I was talking about. I teach high school orchestra, for those of you who don't know me, and I'm a cellist. And today I was talking to my bass players exactly about this thing you're talking about, that we bring the instrument to us. We don't take ourselves to it. And teenagers, they always wanted everything is tight right here in the shoulder. So John, this is perfect.
Good. Let me expand on that just a little bit with what you said. It's not just an instrument, but it becomes part of us. I think that's a really healthy way to look at it. I think if you get the right approach, the right perspective of that, it probably makes things much simpler. All of a sudden we're not fighting this separate thing, but we're playing ourselves.
Hey, John. So Karen and Vernon both said, Karen said her upper back cracked and she immediately felt looser.
Good. Well, it's all in the shoulders and the center, really, that's really key. So let's go back to this, we'll call it dragon tails. That's what they call it in Tai Chi. So let's do this a little bit, and I want you to just stay really loose, and I want you to think about your hands while you're doing this. Now, as we go on, what you should feel, and you'll get better and better at this. This takes practice to get good at, but if your hands feel like they're full of liquid, they're full of blood, they're just loose and puffed up, that's what we're looking for. And I don't know if you can tell, you probably can't tell in my hands, but if I do that just for a couple of minutes, my hands get all blotchy with all the blood that just flows. And that's a pretty good testament to the fact that this is working, and so I would encourage everybody to do this a little bit, whenever they think about it, that once or twice a week, or every time you practice, or really anytime. It's so good for us. Anyway, how are we all feeling now? Are we kind of nice and loose?
I'm very loose and my bow arm feels very powerful now because there's lots of.
So when you do that, your hands and the puffiness and the blotchiness, that's a good indicator that you're doing well with this. So that's something to aim for. Let's see, we got a question. Yes, gravity. Who asked that? I'm sorry.
That was Mr. Huthmaker, and he was saying that he always taught his students to bring the bow to the instrument using gravity.
Yeah. Okay. I find it hard to nail it down to a few thoughts. I just want to spit out 1,000 thoughts all at once. But here's some ways I look at it. To approach the bass particularly, this is what I tell my students, and I'm sure this applies in some form to any instrument. But there's 3 things I want to really think about when I'm playing. One is I want to be centered. Okay, I feel like my center is kind of here when I have the instrument, kind of out in front of my chest, essentially still here in my real body center. But when I add the instrument, it changes a little bit and it's kind of more out in front of me. Okay, so centering, that's first thing. Next thing, and by the way, good balanced stance. So you probably can't see my feet, but I want to be on both of my feet equally. Don't want to do this or anything that's not very ergonomic. So centering, relaxation is critical. That's what we've been talking about. Shoulders down, and the other thing is use gravity. Just like you said, everything is about dropping. It's about shifting weight. It's not about muscle. I'll probably say that a few more times before this is done. So those 3 things are very important: centering, relaxing, and using weights all the time. Now let's see. I definitely have some ideas about creating vibration on the strings. I don't know, Anna, if you want me to get into this much. String technique about creating sound. Do you feel like I should go that direction?
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about creating sound. I know that wasn't in the description, y'all, but it's so much better than my description. So.
Well, I'm going rogue.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, I've got some exercises that I think are very helpful, and I think all you string players can adapt them for whatever instrument you play. there's in how I look at things, the triangle is the magic shape. Okay, there's usually, you know, 3 parts to a lot of things, and producing a sound takes, with the bow I'm talking about, it takes 3 things that really make a difference. One is the placement, where we are on the string. Okay, big difference. The next thing is the speed. Big difference. And the third thing is how much weight we put into the string. So weight, placement, and speed are critical to producing a good sound, especially with a bow. Okay, and that's really what I'm talking about, is the bow. Now, there has to be a balance of those 3 things. We can move the bow up to get a different placement, sure, but we have to compensate for that. We may have to lighten up on the weight and get more speed, or the opposite. If we want to go down toward the bridge, maybe we want to get a real bright color, or want to sustain it for a long time, we can get down by the bridge, slow our bow way down, adjust our weight, and get an approach that way. So same note, much different color, much different physical properties getting that. But those 3 things always have to balance. If we have too much speed, no, but if we add weight, that could work. Or we're in the wrong place with too little speed, you know, the 3 pieces of that equation have to line up together and balance out. They balance each other, and when they do, when they are equal, then we can produce a good sound. Does all that make sense?
Yes, I have a question. Because when I tell my students that, they always say, but how do I know? And I don't have a great answer for them, like how, because the truth of the matter is, it sounds like you're talking about 500 different possible combinations of weight, placement, speed. How do they know what is the right one?
Right. Well, here's how I would approach that to someone new to this idea. First off, I think we all have a pretty good concept of where on the string we want to be, you know, in general. And that's going to be, for bass, it's going to be, you know, 5-6 inches away from the bridge. Yasha Heifetz, I don't know if we all know him. I'm sure some of us do. But he was an important violinist, and he said that the bow should be 1/12 the distance of the string length away from the bridge. Did that make sense?
Do you carry a ruler to figure it out?
Well, look at it this way. Okay, I'm gonna guess this is the 12th. Okay, now, if I'm playing a real high note, I need to get a 12th from that distance, which is gonna be about here. Make sense? So that's where that comes from. So anyway, going back to our typical placement, I would recommend that someone getting familiar with this idea, just kind of stay in that placement until they get a good feel for speed and weight. So we can pretty easily get a decent sound there. And if we keep that one variable not a variable, if we keep that placement, then we can play around with the other 2 things. And that's a good point of experimentation. Then we can, you know, come up a way to get up by the fingerboard, play around with it there. And of course, like anything that's worthwhile, it takes a lot of thought and discovery and planning and experience. So that's just a starting point. A couple of little exercises I have, and I know the bass is a little bit different than some of the other instruments. I'd have to say it probably is a little more physical. You know, a violinist or a violist, you guys can help me out here. We don't need to really think about getting all that weight into the string. You guys can get away with a little bit, and it kind of changes the technique quite a bit. It's more so, Well, cellist, the cello is much more like what we're doing here, what I'm doing with the bass. Still, it's a kind of a different animal though. And if you ever ask a bass player that has a good sound to play a note on the cello, it will be like boom, because we have to understand this weight concept really well. And if you get that on the cello, boom, it's it can tear those strings off the bridge if you're not careful. So let's see. Here's a couple of little exercises I do. And these are elementary things, but these are things that I do every time I pick the bass up, just to kind of get warmed up, get the sound happening, make things vibrate. Again, this first exercise is in 3 parts. I call it the attack exercise. First thing, want to have the weight into the string. Let me go back to camera down angle. So the weight in the string. I can just drop my arm in there. Just get that weight in the string. That's the first part. The next part is I want to feel the grab of my bow here. I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but I want to. If you look closely, maybe you can tell. I can grab the string a little bit. It's moving slightly, but that tells me I've got the grab of the string. It's ready to go. Now at this point, these are the first 2 steps: weight, grab. Now I'm basically done. The potential energy is there. All I need to do now is release that energy. Now, what everybody does first time is like yank it. There's that muscle. That's the muscle kicking in. What I want to do, weight, grab, and release. That's all. And you can think of the release as that. Just the arm, just drop. So that becomes a very simple, very efficient, and an easy way to make that attack. Another way to think about that is, I use this one a lot too, is think of a bow and arrow. Okay, you got your tension, you've got the weight basically in your muscle. You got the string back, you've got the grab, and then it's just a release. Can you see me? Yeah, it's just a release. There's nothing about pushing that string forward or anything else, just a release. It needs to be the same way here. If it's not, if we muscle it, we're going to get something less than what we want. So that's a really good exercise. I would, I do that every time I play, and it, kind of gets the strings going, gets the instrument kind of warmed up and vibrating, gets me moving and connected to the instrument. Just a good way to start. Same thing applies on the up bow, although the physics are a little bit different. Everything really still applies. We still want to feel, this camera's not widening on enough. We still want to feel the weight in the string, okay, and the grab, it's right here. Now, I want to feel like I'm just letting my arm fall this way, okay? That's it. What I don't want to do is this. That's what you see with a lot of players, is just pushing it around. That's not playing the bass. So, is that clear? Is that clear, everybody? Okay. Got this fan right over my head. I keep banging. Okay. Is there any questions? I feel like I'm probably leaving some holes along the way. Is there anything that needs some clarification?
I have a quick question, and if it's okay, I don't know, maybe my dad can answer this, or my mom, but for basses, we have like this seriously sticky rosin, and we use all the weight and everything. Cellists a little bit too, so the grab makes a lot of sense. For violins and violas, can they still get that grab, or is it too powdery and light?
That's a good question, and I don't know that I have really the answer. maybe you violas can help us. Or
Coming down.
I unmuted you. Tell them.
The difference on the violin and the cello, I'm sorry, the violin and the viola would be that the principles are basically the same as what you're saying, but the direction of the weight of the arm and the weight of the shoulders are in a different position. We have the direct line along with the earth's surface. The bass and cello are fighting to get to that point, and you get to it in a different way from the upper strings. But we need less rosin because we have more weight per capita of the instrument. Yeah. I hope that makes some kind of sense. Yes.
That makes really good sense. Yeah. It's a challenge for us. We all have our own individual challenges with these instruments we play. Really, it's such a detrimental thing that we do playing. I can only think of one thing kind of harsher to the body than playing the bass, and that would be golfing. and the problem is, I'll explain it with golfing. The problem is when you're golfing, you're torquing your body, really severely every stroke, but it's always the same way. It's always the same way. So, I would imagine a golfer after, if I was golfing instead of playing the bass for the last 30 years, I'd probably be walking around like this or something. But we have to just kind of compensate for these challenges, with our own instruments, and it's all kind of up to us. But I think the real key thing is that we move efficiently, we stay loose, and we don't fight the instrument.
And can I just add to that, John? So if you guys did not see Amanda's class from last week, check it out, because she talks a lot about that. And she's saying just what John is saying, and she talks about how whatever we do in our playing, when we're not playing, we want to compensate and stretch the other way so that we're always like coming from a healthy place. So I recommend you go watch that as well.
That kind of goes back to what we were saying about the opening up of the chest and leaning with your, stretching your arms back and keeping things open. Another little exercise I've used in the past for this is, there's those foam kind of supports they use for yoga and stuff. They're this long and they're round, big hot dog kind of shape. You can get on one of those on your back and do some snow angels like this. It's a really good exercise. It really opens you up that way. It's very good. Let's see. Is there any other kind of movement topic here that you'd like to hear about, or something? Should we move on to some other stuff? I'm not quite done with the bowing thing, but if it's okay with you guys, maybe we'll start morphing towards the practice ideas. Okay.
I think that sounds great. And you guys don't hesitate, if you're shy about unmuting, to put a question in the chat box, and we'll make sure he gets answered.
I'll show you these other couple of exercises I use pretty religiously. And again, this is really pertaining to the bass, but I think it's adaptable for all the string instruments. So we've done the attack exercise. That's the number one thing. Next thing I want to do, I call this long bow. And what I want to do, let me get down here again. This has to do a lot with the weight placement speed factor. And what I want to do, and I have all my students do this is a really good exercise for bow control and being relaxed in the bow hand. But this long bow, I want to get as close to the bridge as possible and make this just sustain as long as I possibly can. And with a steady tone. This can really be a very difficult exercise. But the turnarounds are the important part. Now, if I hope you can see it, but in my turnaround from the up bow to the down bow, I'll be leading with my body. I'll be leading here essentially, and everything else will follow. So get close to the end of it. I'm going to turn my body around. So there's very little motion, really. All I'm doing is just following my body back and forth. So that's the long bow, and you can get really pretty good at it. You can get right down next to the bridge and just make it last forever. And you can play with volume, with the, I don't want to get too much into it, but you can play with your volume, your tone, all kinds of stuff with this. It's a very good exercise. It makes you stay loose. If you get something like that, there's tension going on more than likely. Probably in your bow hand, probably coming from here to begin with. So those things are great to keep in mind. Just liquid. There's one more exercise I like, and I don't, it's kind of more an advanced thing for the students, but I call this the ping. And this is about the attack. I don't really have the right rosin on right now to make this work very well, but what I want to do, can you guys hear that? It's very little, and I don't have the rosin on, but what I want to do is just take one little hair or one little tooth of this hair and get an attack with it. Just a clean, tiny little attack. And if I can't, I won't go into that too much. It's more of an advanced thing, but if you can make a clean attack, you're halfway there. That's so critical. I'm sure it's the same I'm sure there's a lot of differing principles and philosophies for the upper strings, but the physics are the same, really. Let's see. Practice time. Is that what we're going to talk about now? Okay. Practicing is a real skill in itself. Like I said, I'm still in that class. It's been going on for a long time. We have, I don't want to get too philosophical, but in my way of thinking about it, we have one thing, and we all have this one thing, and that's all we have, really, and that's time. We have time. It's a gift, and it's finite. It's running out right now as we speak, and to me, it's really, really important to use that time wisely. Practicing is a thing that we do that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. We can be efficient with that time, or we can waste it. We all waste our time. I sit in front of Netflix every once in a while and waste some time, but practicing, we're trying to achieve something. We're trying to get somewhere, trying to learn, grow. And there's good ways to do it, and there's less than good ways to do it. I say it's a skill. I think we all probably have an idea that oh wow, I could have practiced that a little better, or man, why didn't I practice it like that to begin with? That kind of thought goes through all our heads, I'm sure. And the approach is important. So again, I'm trying to squelch my thoughts because my brain is trying to go off here. Anyway.
Can I jump in and let me ask you some of the simpler things that were emailed to me earlier this week? Because some of my adult friends, they just wanted to know from the very beginning, like, is there a certain amount of time they should be practicing? Should they practice 30 minutes a day, every day, or 2 hours a day, twice a week? That was the first thing that I got several requests for.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm gonna check my power here. Hang on a sec.
If we lose our clinician, that's not good.
I'll be back. I'm coming back. There we go. Okay.
While he's gone, I have to tell you all, so the Tai Chi swivel exercise, he taught me that standing on the wall of the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina in 1989. And I teach all my students that. To me, it's so useful. And I just want to add in that it's double useful if you sit at a computer a lot of the day. Because, you're sitting like this typing. Sorry, John, I didn't mean to take over. But I was just saying, that's a really good exercise if you're a computer person.
So going back to your question, how much to practice? You probably, I don't know if any of you guys were music majors in school or are, but you go into the school and they say, oh, you got to practice 4 hours a day. Well, that's kind of, that's a little ridiculous and a little subjective. And, the 4 hours may be a good time. I remember, when Anna and I were in school, we were probably doing 5 or 6 hours a lot of days. But the time you put in is not the critical issue. It's how you focus and the goals you're oriented to, and really how you reach to those goals. Let me see if I can integrate some ideas. To me, let me ask all you guys something. I want to get your impression. What's the most important thing? The first most important thing that we do playing the instrument? Any response there? What are we looking for? Well, okay. Anyway.
Tone. Lynn, you have to give him a second to type. Karen says tone.
Okay. Tone is important. Tone is very important, and of course, you could ask 10 guys what the most important thing is. You probably get 10 different answers. Yeah, we do need to somehow get a tone to work with.
That says intonation, or it says to tune. Yeah.
Intonation is important. To me, the absolute most important thing is time, pulse,
Rhythm.
and I'm talking not even rhythm, but time. Okay, rhythm fits within the time, but pulse. That's the box that music sits in. If we, if we don't play time, let's see. That doesn't make it. Okay, let me play that a different way. Now, this is going to be terrible, but I want you guys to realize this. So it was awful, right? But the time was there, and it made a lot more sense with bad notes and awful sound. So that time is critical. And I tell all my students this every week, and maybe they get a little bit better for the next week, a little bit better. It's not a hard concept to understand, but it's a hard concept to kind of achieve. We got to have time. We have to fit everything into that rhythmic box, and that's how we get better. Okay. There's the little hotshot students that want to play everything super fast, but they're going to stop. They're going to stop here and stop here, but they got all these fast notes in the middle. Well, that doesn't get it. If you want to play a fast scale, that's the way to practice. If you can really understand the technical side of things and how the body's working to achieve these, that's how we need to practice. Speed is kind of a flavor that comes along after. But if we have everything figured out here and with our bow and coordinated between the hands at a slow pace, then we can speed it up. Because we have all the nuts and bolts, the mechanics all there. But that hesitation. you know, that's just not going to get us anywhere. That will get us something. And
Can I ask you a question about that? Because we were having a discussion about this yesterday, and the question came up, when you start to learn a piece, should you focus on the notes and the rhythm and the time all at the same time, or should you layer it? Should you learn all the notes first, then the other ones?
it's a good question, and I think it's probably different for all of us. You know, when I approach a music, a new piece of music, of course, I learned a lot from you, Anna, about sight reading and how to look at something. But yeah, I want to kind of just glance at it first, see what's there. You know, look at the key, the time, tempo, style. If there's intervals, you know, the articulations, all that stuff. I want to get some kind of framework of an idea what's there before I even touch anything to the bass. So then I'm coming not from ground zero, but I'm from step one. After that, it depends a lot on the piece and what you're trying to do with it. If it's a real technical, fast piece, I'd say super slow. Understand note to note to note to note. You know, even if it is, if you want to get to, you know, real fast. Bum, dum, bum, 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 bum. You know, that's how we have to approach it. To me, the continuity, the pulse, and the time is the number one thing. If there's something that's rhythmically complex, especially, that's when I would look at the rhythm first. Boom, bum, 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 ba-da-dum, ba-ba. You know, however it fits into the pulse, whatever it is. That's the first thing I want to see. That gives me the feel. And then I can start looking at notes, shifts, articulations, all the other stuff. And I'm sure we're all different on how we approach things, but you know, just one thing at a time. And I think that's where a lot of students fail is they want to, you know, have everything all at once, you know, tempo, time, range, bowings, all this stuff all at once. And it just doesn't work that way. I think we're all still at least semi-human. You know, we have our problems. Let's see. Yeah, that's the first basic thing. Once I understand the rhythm and I'm going on learning a piece of music, I want to understand every note to note. You know, just like I referred to before. If there's a hard shift, I want to practice that shift. And backwards too. I want to have a real good physical access to that shift or to the note or whatever. If it's a bowing thing, you can't see my bow, but you know, say if it's a shoe shine bow, I may want to practice just that bowing. Say we're doing Berlioz Symphony Fantastique or something. You know, that bowing is not really that accessible until you practice it, until you really feel it. So you might do some scale. So you just get the feel of your bow. There's a book I use. It's by Fred Zimmerman. It's called Contemporary Concept of Bowing. Are you familiar with this book, Anna? I'm sure you are. It's a very good book. And what it does is kind of what I'm talking about. It's about string crossing. And it has all these different patterns that are just about string crossing. You know, just, oops. It's all about string crossing. And then later in the book, you know, it's only 2 notes, basically, the whole book until the very end. And then what Zimmerman does is gives us a double staff, gives us the, you know, the string crossings on the lower staff, then puts the real notes to excerpts in the upper part. So what we're doing essentially is practicing time and the string crossings, getting that programmed into our right arm so we can just do it without thinking too much about it. Then we can put our left hand to that. And building piece by piece like that, I think is really a good approach, and it is simple and it's productive. Let's see.
Can I back up for just a second? Because you just did like a scale with that bowing. And that was another question that my friend Donna had asked me is, should she be using her scales when she practices to also add a second technical level, like a different rhythm or something like that?
Like combining the two things you're talking about? Yeah, I think that's good. It's probably mostly useful to isolate those things one at a time. So if it is a particular bowing, yeah, get the bowing just on one note, but whatever it is, get that feel. And so you really understand that aspect of it. Then yeah, put it to a scale. If here's another thing, I like to warm. I think we probably all warm up with a scale or two when we start. Think about the piece you're going to be working on. What key is it in? Work on that scale, or work a relative minor or relative major of that scale. Kind of gets us kind of in the ballpark in a way. I have a bunch of thoughts. One really productive way of practicing that I've found, especially when I was in school and practicing a lot, it's like we're kind of saturated with this stuff all the time, and we're walking around with these tunes going on in our head and thinking about fingerings and bowings and all this stuff. Well, I did a lot of my practicing late at night, and some of the best practicing was those few minutes before I doze off and go to sleep. That was really absolutely the most productive time for me. It's like all this physical activity and on the bass and playing the notes and the shifts and all this stuff all day long. Then at the end of the night, everything it's just a jumble up here, all this stuff. But when you lie down in bed, you can just let everything relax and come to you, and it's like it's simple. The perspective up here, the focus that we have, the mental perspective is critical. And if we're together up here, for that 5 minutes, I can tell you how many times that I would have trouble with a passage or a fingering or a shift, and I'd go to sleep with that. Next day, there it was. This flesh we have up here inside of this skull. It's pretty amazing. And if we get the right approach with it, the right perspective, it does amazing things. That I don't know how it does it, but somehow it does. Other practice things. Say if there's a fast passage. I don't know. A lot of people have a trouble with fast stuff, like me. That's our passage. Say we want to go fast. We can do different things like. So there we've given ourselves a break because every other note is a nice slow chance to recover. Or now just doing it like that, I've covered the whole speed in different segments. So we can really break things down in a lot of ways. We can slur notes. So many ways to approach the same thing. And each one of those is going to give us a little sparkle of knowledge to this approach or this approach. And it's up to each of us individually to determine what works for us and how we can focus and get this perspective and make it work. So we're all different. We're all going to, we're all kind of looking for the same thing, but we're all different. We're all going to approach it differently with a different frame of mind.
Kind of interesting because you're actually talking about stepping away from the written notes on the page and applying some creativity to it.
I'm glad you said that. Let me go somewhere else there. This is really important to me. I approach my students, you know, and I don't know if all of you or any of you are teachers. I know you are, Anna and Dana, and probably all of you teach to a certain extent. But I approach my students like this. There's really two sides to this thing we do that we call music. One is the physical, the technical side of things, how we play the notes, where the fingers go, how the fingers are shaped, you know, the speed, the accuracy, all this stuff. That's left brain. That's all left brain. The analytical side, the how we understand something or how we determine, you know, this is going to be the right pitch here, all that stuff. And that's really the most, that's the fundamental part of music that we have to really acquire and accomplish. And then what we're aiming for in achieving this competency with technical aspect, we want to leave all that behind. We want to get to a point where it doesn't matter anymore because we know, the hand knows, the bow knows, we know how to do this. And that's why it's a difficult thing we do. And there's a lot of real learning like this, the real physical learning that we just have to understand. But when we get to that point where we're technically proficient, and it happens in degrees for sure, but when we can switch over to the right side of our brain, that's music. That's when music comes into play. You know, it's not just notes and rests and fingerings anymore, but it's heart. And that's right brain. And I think that's what we're all looking for. And that's why we have to practice so hard and so long on the technical side, so we can get over this hump and really enjoy and feel what we do. And that's what it's all about, really. You know, that's music. This stuff on the music stand, you know, that's just a paper. That's not music. Bear, give me some directions. Who we got? How about some questions?
Okay, so I got the question. Somebody wants to know, do you have a particular practice ritual you follow?
Yeah. To be honest, I haven't practiced a lot lately with this COVID thing. We've canceled our whole season, so I'm a woodworker now. I'm not much of a bass player, but I do teach, you know, every week. I have a lot of students, and I kind of try and promote some certain ideas with all of them. First of all, the three basic things that I expressed earlier: the attack exercise, the longbow, and the ping. Every time, pick up the bass. That's what I do every time. Just, you know, doesn't need to be a lot, but it needs to be focused and clean and precise. And that's what I'm going for there. After that, I will more than likely go to the Zimmerman book that I described already. And then there's another book I use. It's a left-hand technical book that I use. Petrarchy, you know that one, Anna. But those are the basic exercises for me. And maybe if there's an etude or something like that, that's fine. And I will. Now I said, you know, we want to get to the right side of the brain and forget about the left. Well, there's still always a big component of the left. And if I had an hour to practice, I'd spend half of my time on technical stuff, scales, etudes, this Zimmerman stuff, the Petrarchy. That's how I structure it. Then, you know, I mean, all the music we play is based on scales and the same things that these etudes or all the exercises are doing. So we're already kind of well into the groove by the time we get to the music that way. And then, you know, some of these exercises we can adapt say, like you're doing a Mozart symphony and you want to work this fast passage, you might want to work that certain bow stroke, into your scales or into any other exercise, or always be ready to develop your own exercise. If you're having trouble with a second to third finger or fourth to first or anything like that, develop an exercise. Figure out what you need to do to make that work, and break it down to square one, then square two, and then bring it back. And that's how we really get ahead. Let's see.
Let me interrupt you because and you may have already answered it, but one of the questions I was asked to ask you was, how does your approach to practice differ from when you first started the bass to when you were in college to now that you're a professional musician and it's your livelihood? Has your practice theories, have they changed? Or have they always been the same?
Oh, it's all the same. It's the same. No, that's really how I was referring to. I'm still in that class. It's a dynamic thing. It's always going to be moving around. I find myself with my students. The students are a great way to kind of keep in track with what you're doing over the years. And talking to you, Anna, it really brings up some thoughts from 25 years ago. And that comes back. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to bring that up to this student. That stuff really happens, but it's a dynamic process for sure. And I feel, I don't feel like I'm a master of practice. It's a hard thing. It's such an open-ended thing. It's a real art form. And I don't know, I've never seen a class about practice. It'd probably be really helpful because, that's one thing I'm kind of working on my students with all the time is how are you going to do this? How are you going to get to this point? What are you going to do here? Really breaking this stuff down and figuring out exactly what the problem is. And that brings me to another point. If we're practicing and having a hard time with something, I don't care what it is, first thing is we need to realize there's a problem. Once you've realized, oh, this isn't working, this is a problem, we're halfway to fixing it. Next thing is to specify that problem. Really figure out really what the problem is. And this is deceptive a lot of times, and I ask my students, what's going on here? And half the time they can't tell me. If it's a shift or a one note that's out of the whack or something, it's easy to blow by that perhaps. And it's not always easy to specify exactly what the problem is. But once you're aware of the problem, once you specify it, then you can start fixing it. And that's where you can develop your own little exercises, which I'm a huge advocate for. Develop specifically what you need to do to compensate for that problem. And that happens every time we have a problem. Just be smart, be focused, and use your time wisely.
Do you ever record yourself when you practice?
Good point. I haven't for a while. I have all my students do it. It's a great way to get ahead. We are all very subjective listeners, whether we like it or not. And that's why recording is such a hard thing for most of us. We hear what we want to hear. Oh, that sounded great. And then, you put it to a recording. It's like, oh God, what? It's scary recording, but it's a great tool. It's a great objective way to hear what we're playing and how to fix it. Another point about that is I like to have my students record themselves. If they're having a time problem, I'll say record it with a metronome. But the most important thing is listen to it back. Rewind it, listen to it, take notes on your paper if that helps. This note's a little bit high, that kind of stuff. but it really gives us a good, clean, objective listening to record it. And it's a great, great tool to get ahead quickly.
I wanted to actually, if you don't mind, I wanted to actually kind of give a shout out. You said something a second ago about kind of your students showing you where you were with practice and that kind of thing. And I heard that as we're always learning from our students. And I spent my entire life practicing the exact same way. Scales, etudes, solo, and all my students, if they were all on this, they'd be going, yep, yep. And Linda Walker, who's on the thing, but she probably has her camera turned off. Anyway, when she came to lessons, she talked about how every day she would look at what she wanted to accomplish that day. And she would spend her whole practice time on this one thing. And she had like a whole stack of books, tons of different technique, tons of solos, tons of everything. And every day it was kind of creatively what inspired her and what motivated her. And Linda, I just think that's so great. I just wanted to say that because I learned at a really late age from her not to lock myself into too small a box. So
that's good. That's good approach. Another thing that a lot of us can really find helpful is keep a notebook and keep your goals and your sites and all that stuff in line. And say, your short-term goals. Okay, today I want to figure out this scale with this new fingering, or I want to figure out this, a new bow stroke to go to this piece or whatever. Find your short-term goals, what you want to do, what you want to walk away from tonight. And then, maybe next page, what's our week-long goals? And then the next page, what's month-long? And, if we can keep focused like that and keep striving towards some specific goal, it's very helpful. And I don't know about any of you guys, but I would totally be hopeless in all walks of life if I didn't make lists. I'm pretty hopeless anyway, but with my list, I'm better. And writing stuff down and giving yourself a hard copy of something, it can really be helpful. It's helpful for me. We're all different, but use your, be creative with how you all individually approach practice and be smart about it. Because that's the one thing, like I referred to earlier, that, we have time, but it's fleeting, it's going away, and we're not getting any more.
Well, I was going to ask you about motivating yourself when we're not motivated, but Dan said something in the chat that I love. He said that someone told him, if you're not enjoying your practicing, change it until you are enjoying it.
Good. Back in the day when we were practicing in school, and it was bass all the time, eat bass, sleep bass, dream bass. I just lost my train of thought.
Back then, we didn't have to worry about motivation because we had to do it anyway. But you stay motivated now.
Here's where I was going with that thought. A lot of times, I get up in the morning. I always really tried to practice a little in the morning, and the earlier the better for me. But a lot of times it's uninspired. It's like, oh crap, I got to go play this again. A lot of times it was like that. It was really hard to get going. When that happened with me, I'm pretty partial to Brahms. I love Brahms symphonies. And if I didn't find my mojo right away, I just pull out my Brahms book, random, just open it up and play. And 95 out of 100 times, boom, I'm right in the mood 5 minutes later. So yeah, grab hold of something that strikes you, and yeah, just find that motivation somewhere.
I think that's a perfect thing to end on. And believe it or not, I swear to God, I'm not lying. I'm a little inspired to go practice for the first time in a long time. So I appreciate that very, very much, John. So I do want to say a couple of things before I let everybody hang up. The first thing I want to do is, you can't tell because everyone's muted, but we're all thanking you and we're all applauding because, John, this was awesome. You were fantastic. So now John taught one of my other students a Zoom lesson a couple weeks ago. He's great on Zoom coaching. So can I give them all your email in the chat box?
Sure, I'm happy to do whatever I can for anybody in music. Yeah.
Awesome. He's a lot of fun to spend an hour with on Zoom, and you'll be amazed at how much you'll learn. And I just lost it. Anyway, I will put it right here. So the other thing, John, show us your music stand.
Ah,
That's his dog.
you know, since the orchestra's not playing, I'm doing a ton of woodwork. And I've got 3 stands I just finished. And I'll bring the computer around so you can all see it. Here's one. You can see that? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one's redwood with a little maple touch. There's a walnut one right there. And then this one, my stand here. This is my newest one. I'm doing some cheaper woods here. This is just pine. So that's what I'm working on these days. I think it's good design, and I hope everybody appreciates them like I do.
Yeah, Karen actually just asked, did you make the one that's in the room at the shop? Yeah, if you're in Atlanta, you should come by our shop and see. He made the most beautiful stand, and the toggles are made of Pernambuco wood from a bow. I love it, love it. And it's so neat because everyone has lots of gifts, but to find someone like John that has 2 amazingly incredible gifts, it's really special. So,
Well, thanks, Anna, but I'm just curious. That's all. I just have curiosity, and I want to know. I want to learn, and I want to do, and that's what keeps me going.
well, I'm tempted to do a Huffmaker Violins podcast, and if I ever do, you're going to come on and be a guest, and we're going to talk about curiosity in music, because that's another whole class, and I think we'd all really enjoy it. So all right, John, I love you. You're wonderful. Do you have anything else you want to add before we go?
Yeah. Like I said, I'm probably repeating myself a lot here, but this is a real gift we all share, and this is what life is about. This passion inside, and we all
No.
we wouldn't really be here doing this if we didn't have this passion, and I just want to support that. This is life. This is what life is about. Just enjoy it and feel it and live it and breathe it. And thank you for all you guys. And if there's anything I can do for anybody, let me know. And I'm here and I'm available.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Next week, our next guest is Uta Zahn. She is a violin maker, and it's an evening with a violin maker. She's going to show us the process and answer questions. Uta is also my co-founder of Luthiers Without Borders, so she's got lots of great stories. So next week, 7:30, same bat time, same bat channel, and the link is on our Huffmaker Violins Facebook channel on the events page. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to end this now.
Bye, John. It's great to see you. Thank you so much. Anna, thanks. This was awesome.
Good night. Thanks for staying up so late.
Bye.